Extend that. Already here.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. We'll just give a couple of more minutes to people to join in. Awesome. I think we have all, and we can get started. So just a quick introduction. My name is Akshay, and I work with the sales engineering team here at Decisions. And today I'll be your host for Lunch and Learn, where I'll be answering some of your questions. And if I can't, I'll get back to you with the answers. So I have a couple of questions pre-submitted to me, and we'll start from there, but you can use the chat option to provide your questions, and I'll look at them and answer them as we go on. Okay, so the first question that we have is from Fernanda, and they're looking to build a responsive page so that when they change the sizes, the elements also change their size. All right, so I'm going to jump into Decisions platform, and we will create a simple page. And I hit create. So when we enter into the page design, on the right-hand side, you would see there's an option that says container type. And inside that container type, there are several different options you can use. By default, it comes with the grid layout. But to make your page responsive and make them change the size as you change the screens, you'll have to select something called responsive. Now, once you have done that, the next thing you would do is you would look for a grid, and you would look for a responsive grid. Now, what I'm currently doing, I'm in a surface of this page, and what I would need is a grid so that I can put my components on that grid. And I'm going to use this option that's a responsive grid. I'm going to drag and drop it right here. Now, what this allows me to do is to drag and drop different elements on this grid. Now, it can be any element. It could be a report. It could be a folder activity panel or a pie chart or anything. You're just going to drag and drop it onto the surface. And when you do that, when you have like a lot of elements, what's going to happen is it's going to look something like this. I'm going to page 1 where I have this reconfigured. So what you're seeing right now is a responsive grid. When I click on that, you can see it's a responsive grid, and it has these different elements. You know, there's a pie chart, there's a folder activity panel, and there's a report. And let's say there's an HTML display right here. And when I change the size of my screen, it'll automatically adjust itself. And now you can see that inside this, this grid, I have 4 sections. Grid layout, which is the HTML, then pie chart would be grid layout 1, 2, and 3, and so on. Now, once you have done this, you can just go ahead and save. And let's try to see this page on a dashboard folder so that you can access that. So I'm going to click on this responsive dashboard. And here what you would see is all those components which I had created on my page. Now what you're seeing is a display HTML here. Then we have a pie chart here. Then we have a folder activity panel and a report. Now I'm going to change the size of my screen. So I'm going to change the size of my browser right here. And let's see how it responds. Now what's happening here is as I decrease the size, you would notice that the report has moved.
And make sure that you're able to connect here, or at least the web pages.
I'm hearing some sounds. Hey, Caitlin, can you mute yourself, please? Yeah, perfect. So what you're seeing is as I decrease and change the size of my browser or the screen, you would notice that it expands. The pie chart and the activity folder panel are right next to each other, and the report has moved itself down. And if I change the size back to the normal, you would notice that the report comes back in. So this is a way you can create dynamic pages and dashboards so that the different controls on it changes as the screen change. Does this answer your question, Fernanda? You can use the chat option, or you can, you know, I don't know if you have the rights to talk, but
Can you hear me?
yep, I can hear you. Yeah.
So yeah, I tried to do that, but I
Mhm.
didn't see how you put all those components inside the grid, the responsive grid, because I added a responsive grid, and then I put another grid inside that so that I could have lines and stuff, lines and columns. Because when I just had the
Mhm.
responsive grid, it doesn't allow me to choose how many columns or lines I need.
I see.
Because how did you put all these elements inside one responsive grid? Did you add 4 grid layouts in there?
I just dragged and dropped that. Let me see. Let's jump right back in. Page 1. Now, if I select the surface, you're going to see the main container, which we have here. And then inside of that, we drag and drop that onto the grid, which is the parent now. Let's see, let's try to drag and drop some element here. Strange, because that's how I was doing it initially. And see. I see. So what you're seeing here is that grid. As you can see now, right now I'm grid layout 2. And then once I have this grid layout, then I would be able to drag and drop my component. Let's say I drag an image here, and then I drag and drop a report here.
Yeah, I see that you have several sections in your responsive grid. But how did you add all those grids inside the responsive grid and then got the sections right? Because for me, it's not working properly, I think.
I see. So what's happening is, so let me delete that again and do that again. So let's say this is a page and I'm on the surface. So I'm going to do a quick grid layout here. And once it's there, I drag and drop my responsive grid. And then once I have that, I should be able to add those components. And I mean, it can get a little tricky as you're seeing here with these grid components. But what I'll do is I'll maybe record a short clip, which I can share with you of how you can arrange these grids in multiple dimensions, if that helps.
Yeah, it will, because I see that you are not able also to put a component inside the responsive grid. It just disappeared.
Yeah, that's what I'm also wondering. Where it comes. It's good. I think it's with the responsive grid that happens. No worries, but this is something that can be done as you're seeing in these components, which I have. But I would send you a quick clip that kind of shows you how to do that.
Hey, thanks, because
Yeah.
I'm trying. I tried everything already, and nothing seems to be
Okay,
working.
but you're trying to do that on a page, not a form, right? Something like this
Yes,
is what
it's
you're
a
trying to
page.
explore. Okay, I see. Yeah, yeah, sure.
Because my section, when I added responsive grid and grids inside of that responsive grid, it doesn't seem to be adding new sections inside the
Yeah,
responsive grid. So
I see.
it's not responsive when I put a big or small window in my browser.
I see what you're saying.
But again, there are no sections in my responsive grid, so I don't think like yours, sections, grid layout 1, grid layout 2, and so on with all your components. I do believe you have several grids there, but
Yeah, so what I have is a surface. Like if I go to the parent, so this is the surface where you would select that as container type responsive. I think this is something which I've already done. And then on top of that, it's an entire responsive grid.
I know. I
Yeah.
also did that, but
And then
well, if you send me the clip, I think it would be very helpful.
yeah, I'll do that. Perfect. And inside onto that responsive grid, as you can see, there's a normal grid layout. And then inside that normal grid, there is this element. So if I quickly try that again one more time and I drag and drop a grid, let's say a normal grid here. So I have this grid here. And then what I do is I drag and drop, let's say, an image on one of these. And let's have a report here. So now let's try that and see what's happening. I see. Yeah, I think it works. So if I go full screen, you can see that the image and that new element which I added is here. But if I change the size, it's going to see that it doesn't have enough size and it comes and takes it to the second row in the space. So what's actually happening and what you will have to do is onto that responsive grid, you will have to put again one more grid. As you can see, this is the normal grid which I have added. And it's lying on top of, if I go into the parent, and you would see it's the responsive grid. Now we have grid layout 4. Initially, I had just 3 of them. Does that make sense? I can redo that if it helps. So what I'm doing is let me delete that. So I have my container where you start from. You have the responsive, right? And then when I click here, this is whole responsive grid that I would have dragged and dropped, And then once you have that grid, then you drag and drop another grid, which is like a normal layout grid. You do that.
Yeah, but when you do that from scratch, the responsive grid actually occupies just like much less than you are occupying right now. Like you can drag and drop a grid inside it, but it's very small.
Is that so?
Yeah, like that.
So this is responsive grid.
How do you put that in the whole page? Should I put that in the whole page just by adjusting the height?
Just trying and seeing. So let's see if we drag and drop it, if it expands itself. Oh, I see what's happening here. I think there's a component there. Okay, so you would use this. So when you have drag and drop that responsive grid, and you will see there's an option that says grid layout. And then you would, when you click on that, you can adjust and change the size here.
Okay, so I will have to first change the layout to responsive grid, then add a responsive grid
Yes.
component,
Mm-hmm.
and then add a grid layout inside the responsive grid and
Yes.
change it and change the height.
Yep. So what will happen is, so in the back, the main parent is basically the responsive grid. Now, when I add this normal grid, it comes out and shows as a grid layout, as you can see here, right?
Mhm.
And when you can just click on this pencil and then decide all those grids which you have on that responsive grid, what should be the size, height, and width of that. You can change that here.
Okay, so
Yep.
can you see if that will work? Because I think that's exactly what I did, and it's not
Oh.
working on mine.
Okay. So you want to share your screen or kind of make me summarize this once again?
Yeah, I could. I'm not sure if I have the last word because I was trying a lot of times deleting. Let me see what is the last version I have here.
Okay. So if you try something that we just saw, it should work, I guess. If you're
Sorry, I don't
following
know
the
what
exact.
happened. I think I. Ah, okay. You let me share my screen now. Okay.
Go ahead.
Let me just find it.
And in the meantime, anybody who has a question, please drop them in the chat. I have people from my team, Saul and Mark. They'll be happy to answer them if they can be answered through text. Go ahead, Fernanda.
Can you see my screen now?
Yep, I can.
Okay. So I did put the surface. I set that as responsive.
Yep.
And what I'm trying, I need these tiles to resize as I close the window.
Okay.
So, okay, so I have a grid right here, right after the responsive grid. So I added the grid.
Yep, you have the grid.
And then I tried many things. So this is another responsive grid that I was testing. And then I put another grid inside here. See if that will work, because the other way it wasn't working, as I can see maybe here.
Can you click here on this surface?
Which surface?
This, just where I'm annotating right now. Yeah. So you can see that you have grid layout 4. Are you trying to increase the size there?
I would like these tiles to reorganize as I have a bigger or smaller window.
Are they not changing yet?
No. Let me
Okay.
show you that in the page. That wasn't okay. So when I try to do this, it's still here, the tile.
Let's see. These tiles have to be kept in the individual grid, is what I can reckon. So once you have the responsive grid, then instead of putting all of them in the same grid, you should have an independent grid so that it knows that it has to resize itself when the screen changes.
Oh,
Yeah.
one grid for each tile.
Yeah, that's what I reckon. Because how it is designed and how I was showing is it was an individual component.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
That's
I'm just
right.
thinking because I have not explored that myself, just trying to think.
No worry. Let me just erase that. Oh, just undo. Okay, so I should add.
And this grid layout is on the responsive grid, correct?
This one is.
Yeah.
I had that reserved. Let me just check this. So this is the responsive grid, and this grid layout, the whole
Yeah.
grid layout is right here. So I would have to put a grid here and a grid here, right?
Yep.
To test this. Okay.
And what I suggest is you try that, and then if it works, good. Otherwise, I got your use case now. You're trying to move the tiles. Then I would make something, and then I can share that with you to keep moving. Yeah.
Okay. Perfect.
All right. So the next question, I think, was from Mono, if she's still there. Yeah, so we have Manal. The next question from Manal was to how to import a project. It's if you have the project downloaded, you can just come up here in your designer, and then you can just right click, and then you would get an option to import/export. And you just click on import, and you just drag and drop that project which you're trying to. In this case, I have project X. I just upload that here. In my desktop, project X. I pick that file and click import. And it'll show you all the entities which you would want to be imported. If everything is good, you can continue to import. And it'll show you the folders which will go in, and you would complete import. And when you do that, it'll just show you the progress of everything importing till it gets created.
My question was like, you know, when you have a portal in Studio where like different users can access and they just click on the project and they go to the dashboard, that's where I was confused, like how to do that. Because I got to the point where I can import the project. I just want the users to access the dashboard.
You want them to access the dashboard on the end user portal.
Yes. So like on the left-hand side where there are all the projects, I just want them to click it on that project so they can see the dashboard and the whole report. But whenever I do it, it shows me all these other options, tiles, columns. I just want them to see only the dashboard.
So if I click on the end user portal, so you're saying you just want them to see the dashboard, which they are supposed to see, nothing else.
Just that, but with the dashboard and reporting. Yes.
Dashboard and reporting.
Mm-hmm.
That'll happen through the controls which you will put. For example, in this case, as you can see, I have the main files in the demos folder. But if there's any dashboard that's linked to these, I would just create an external, one more folder where I would be keeping my dashboards, as in this case. And then you would be allowing the access to only this dashboard to those set of users to which you want to expose this to, basically. You could just come to manage, and you would manage permissions. And then you would, by default, it'll show everything to everyone. But then you can restrict that and just pick the group. And for example, those users are put in a group and you have added them inside. You can just pick that one group. And let's say in this case, loan approval, and give them access to use and open and view. Now, once you do that, and when they log in into the portal, they would be able to see only that component, which is the dashboard in this case.
Gotcha. I don't know how do I explain it. I got to the permissions too. It's just like whenever I release the dashboard, because I don't see you have that option where it's like a portal in the studio. Is it possible like I can show you real quick?
Portal and the studio. Yeah, sure. Go ahead and share your screen. Yeah.
Oh, yes. I don't think I have access to that yet. Okay, perfect. I can do it right.
You'll have to unmute yourself.
Oh,
There
can
you
you
go.
see my decisions
Perfect.
dashboard? Sorry about that.
Up,
Yep.
I can see.
So right here on the portal, let me go to it. I got this project where this is all the projects that the users can see. And I had put it this PPS, which is pretty much gone now. Okay, well, that's just went away. That's really amazing. Sorry, it was just here. So like, that's what I just want to do. So I just want to add the project. And whenever I try to do that here, so it says to add folder name.
Okay. So you are right now accessing the portal. So here you can't do really much. Like if you create that folder, maybe you can upload a file or so. But these dashboards that you're seeing here have to be exposed from the studio.
Gotcha. So like even in the studio, when I try to put it in the project, it just doesn't, it shows me, so right here, if you can see it, it shows me all these other options. I don't want these lists, tiles, columns, unit. Do you know how to get rid of these?
To get rid of these, I think it's a default behavior of this report that you're seeing, I think. And is it like a page that you have created, or what is this component
Yes,
that you're seeing?
it's the whole dashboard, and then I add the report into it.
Right. I think this is the default behavior that it comes with. So are these the options that you want to get rid of? The list, tiles, columns?
Yes, because on the other projects, like if you see this one, it only have the dashboard and then the folder view. And in this one, I get all these options, and the users just love to go on the other things, and they're like, "What is that?" And I'm like, "Oh."
So I think this is not a page, actually, what you're seeing here. So if we go back into Studio and look at how did you configure PPS expense handling? So if you go in the Studio and explore
this is the studio right now.
Oh yeah, we are in Studio. Yeah, and I mean, I want to go inside the page where you design what we are seeing right now.
Oh yes, sorry about that. Let me go ahead real quick. Sorry, my computer just doesn't work when it's supposed to work. Page. Okay. Let's see. So this is the PPS dashboard, and this is the project that I'm trying users to see. And this is how it looks like.
Okay. I see. So this is good. I think this is, you're designing the pages right. And this is the page which is showing that list, tile, and all those options, right?
Yes.
I see. I see. So let's close this here.
Okay.
Yep. And let's click on this plus. I just want to show you from scratch. Just click on the plus on the folders on the top. Let me annotate, yeah. And create, it should not be a designer folder. I think that's the reason why it's showing like that. So if you right click somewhere, it should give you an option to create a normal folder. It's an old version, I think.
Okay, I think I just need to maybe like come back to it, because right now I'm under the PPS, so it's thinking I'm trying to add the designer folder into that one. So maybe if I come here and just click like this.
It has to be a normal folder, and we put that. Yeah, let's add this. Let's just put test here, or something. Yeah. And now you link that page to this. Yeah. Right click.
So now it came all the way in the bottom.
Why did it come here? Is it like a normal folder? I'm just trying to understand. I'm not very familiar with this version of Decisions, to be honest.
Yeah, it's like usually they just like, so what they do is they
Right click. Yeah, let's click Manage and go to Page Dashboards.
okay,
Add page / dashboard. Yeah,
gotcha.
and then pick that page which we were just looking at.
Okay.
And click OK. And then, yeah, if you click on the PPS expense right there. Yeah. And you see now you would not be looking at those styles, views. I think what has happened is maybe you try to link into, I don't know, some other kind of folder, but this is a normal folder. This is not a designer folder. And then you add that up here. Now, as you can see yourself, there's no list in anything that it looks just like other folders. That makes sense.
Gotcha. Yes, but how do you know how do I add like these icons that they have?
Yeah, so let's see now, set folder behavior, set name. How about this? Does it give any options here? Let's try this one, name page.
It's just
No, it doesn't. Okay, let's go back and see. Let's look at the ones which have the icon. Let's see if they have any different behavior there.
Okay. Let me look at the
anything.
grid.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't have all those other options that I get into that one.
How did you change there?
I don't know about these because these are set up by my manager.
Okay,
and
okay.
So he is not anymore with us. So now I'm like, okay, how do I do this?
Okay. I'm sure there's a way.
Yeah, because it usually like asks me like if you want to advance the icon and add the icon in it, but in this one it's just designer folder, entity, setup. I don't really know.
Page dashboard. Exit on page mode.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I think this has to be explored, I guess, but definitely there's a way.
Yeah, it seems really simple because I took like good 20 minutes to figure it out, but it just doesn't have that option where you can add. It says the folder root, but whenever I try to add the designer folder, it does gives me that icon thing. It just doesn't gives me on that.
Okay, I think we'll look into that.
Okay.
I'll drop you an email. I have your email ID, and
Okay, awesome.
But just try that. I think the first part of the problem should be addressed. You would not see those tiles. You would just see this when you expose that to the end user now.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
I'll try to delete it because on the other one I already have the picture, so I'll try to delete the page and then re-add it again.
Yeah, sure.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no worries. All right, let's move on. Okay, I see we have a question from Radley. I have two forms with a document viewer doing the additional fields, and it's used for approvals. The other form looks such a user action and only contains a document viewer. Yeah, loading there. And it does and how to control PDF to page of the viewer. Okay, let's look into that.
And actually, I've been doing some more testing and trying out things. I found that it's not a it's not like a setting or a constant thing. What what I'm finding is on the form that has the other fields. I don't know if that's related, but just to help you identify which one I'm talking about. The form that's going to the approver, where they either reject or approve the request.
Yep.
Wherever they leave the PDF, like so, if I'm an approver, I scroll to the bottom of the PDF, I reject it or I send it back for corrections. When I get that back, it's still at the bottom of the PDF. If I reject it at the top of the PDF, right, while I'm scrolled to the top, when I get it back and look at it again, I'm at the top of the PDF.
Okay,
so it's kind of like, I don't know if it's a user-based thing, but I'm not seeing that same behavior on the other document viewer without all the fields that I would look to as part of a user action.
Oh, interesting. So there are two forms which basically can go forward and backward, and you're seeing that if you are sending it back, it just stays scrolled down to the max, and it doesn't go up. That's what you're saying,
right?
Okay.
But if I leave it at the top, when I come back and look at it again, when I get it back again,
yeah,
it's at the top.
It's at the top. Yeah, it's to be honest, I'm not really sure about this. If it's the document viewers attribute, or it has to do something that's out of the control of the view. Let's explore if there are any options in the document viewer.
Yeah, there's not a lot of properties on the document viewer object, but if you can find something, that'd be great.
Let's see. Document viewer. Let's see what are the two options you have. And are you using file data for
I am,
this?
yes, file data, that's correct.
Okay. I'm just checking it. What are the different options that may help? I don't have any PDF, but additional URL parameters. Get default page number. So I think this is what we're talking about, Rally. Maybe is it the page number by default? It just takes 0. That means it's starting from that point.
Yeah, I tried to set that to 1, thinking maybe you couldn't find 0, so it was going to the max. That didn't change the behavior at all.
And when you change that to 1, and when you open that up, did it open it on the first page or at the second page of the document? Because
whatever page I left it at. So it would still open up on the second page. I assume if there are 3 pages, it would open up on the 3rd page.
Okay, let's see. And I also don't see any way to pass that dynamically from the flow to kind of, when we are sending back to the reviewer, we show them this, maybe 0 or 1, whichever. So I'm not really sure about that, Natalie. I don't think there's a way that I can look here.
Okay, no worries. Yeah. All right. I appreciate you taking a look, actually. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries.
All right. See you.
And I'm just checking through some questions. Fernanda, I can't seem to get the responsive grid working. No worries, Fernanda, no worries on that. I think I got what you're looking for. You want those tiles to move as the size of the screen changes. I'm going to make a quick clip to record that, and I can send that to you, but make sure that you give your email ID to Caitlin so I can use that to reach out to you. Awesome. So do we have any more questions from anyone? All right, guys, if we don't have any more questions at this point, I think,
I just dropped one more in the chat.
okay. It's possible to pass. Yeah, it's a, so what typically can be done is, Mark, you convert that file into, base string 64, which is basically a string. And then you can, pass that as the input to your request for the API that you're trying to call. Sure. And I can just give you a scenario. So if you want to call decisions and a workflow in decisions, and that kind of reads in a file. So if I want to call that particular workflow as an API from Postman or any other system, what I would typically do is convert that file into base string 64, which becomes a string. And then decisions kind of understand that string and converts it back into a file so that it can be processed as a file inside that workflow, which needs it. So you can try that out and hopefully it should work. All right, seems like we don't have any more questions coming up. So we can wrap up the session for today. And thanks again, everyone, for joining in. And we have work lunch and learn sessions every day from Monday to Thursday. Feel free to join us next time if we can answer your question today. Have a good day, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.